This is Solve It for Kids.
Hello, my amazing and curious friends. My name is Jennifer, the dean of all things STEM and STEAM, and this is Solve It for Kids, the science podcast that gives kids and families a peek inside the real world of scientists, engineers, and experts as they solve problems in their jobs using creativity, cooperation, and critical thinking. And now please welcome to the show my podcast partner, Galactic Space Geek, Jeff Gagne.
Hello, Jennifer, and hello, listeners. We have got to get right to today's guest because we are going to be talking about animals everybody loves.
Yes, absolutely. So what problem are we solving today?
How do you rescue raptors?
How do you rescue raptors? Oh, this is going to be such an amazing conversation. Who is our guest today, Jeff?
Our guest today is the terrific Travis Wilcoxen. He is professor of biology at Millikan University and the president of the board of the Illinois Raptor Center.
Welcome to the show, Travis.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Well, this is going to be such a fun episode because I love to learn all about raptors. Like recently I've noticed them all over the place. Kind of there's like a hawk that I see on my house. So I'm curious, as a kid, were you one of those people that noticed all the raptors and the birds around you?
When I was a kid, I noticed all of the animals.
Oh.
And I spent time in the creek behind my house. We oftentimes joke about how I used to just leave a note on the counter when my parents came home from work. It's like a creek, and they could reliably find me at the creek.
Okay.
So I didn't always have a specific interest in birds. Mostly it was sort of fish and reptiles and amphibians.
Okay.
And when I went through college, I started to realize that when you're a scientist, the questions that you're interested in are kind of more important than the animals.
Oh.
Okay.
Kind of grew into where my research questions led me to working with birds as well.
So. That's cool.
Okay.
I like that.
Gotta ask, what was one of the questions that sort of detoured you?
Yeah.
So the questions were, how do animals survive diseases in the wild?
Oh.
Okay.
And what have you found? Have you found any kind of answers to that?
So we find some really interesting things with raptors in particular, that because they are top predators and they're eating everything below them,
yes,
they have amazing immune systems against the diseases that, say, other birds don't.
Wow. Really?
Okay,
I didn't know
makes
that.
a lot of sense. When you say it that way, it makes a lot of sense. If they're eating everything below them on the food chain, well, they better be able to handle it on the way in. That's good news. So I want to back up half a step. How did that question lead you more to birds than to reptiles and fish?
Yep. So I started with reptiles, amphibians, and fish, and we were trying to understand, with amphibians in particular, we're trying to understand a new fungus that was wiping out frogs and toads in the late 80s.
Oh.
And I was like, look, I want to do the next step there. I want to understand the immune systems of the frogs and toads.
Okay.
And I applied to graduate school to work with someone who was working in that field, and someone else at that university saw my resume and said, look, I don't know if Frog Guy has any openings in his lab, but I'm a bird guy and I have 4 years of funding and I'll pay for your research, and you can ask those same questions in birds.
Whoa. So all of a sudden became bird. We've heard this story from scientists before. Sometimes you go where the money is or the opportunity is, right?
Yes, indeed. And again, when you quickly realize that if you're asking the right questions, you can learn to appreciate different animals that can help you answer those questions. If that's what you're interested in, that's what motivates you to pursue science. It doesn't necessarily matter, for me to say I'm a bird biologist or an ornithologist. I'm a disease ecologist. I study how diseases work in wild populations.
I love that. So let me ask you, for maybe some of the people that don't know, can you define what a raptor is specifically? What kind of birds are they?
Yeah, so those are the birds that have the taloned feet.
Ooh. Okay.
And so that is why you have the name raptor carried over from the dinosaurs, right? So the raptorial dinosaurs all had feet with sharp curved claws.
Okay.
And that is what they use to subdue the things that they're eating, to kill the things they're eating so that they can safely eat them and carry them off. Most people will look at a bird like a hawk or a falcon or an owl or an eagle, and they'll see the face and they'll say, oh yeah, big, tough beaks. That's probably what they do their work with. That's not.
Wow.
Okay.
It's the feet. And that's why they carry over that name from the raptors, the dinosaur raptors, is because their feet are shaped the exact same way and used for the same purposes.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. That is very cool. I have seen a documentary. I have it in my planetarium here, and it's called Great Bear Rainforest. And for about 60 seconds in this 45-minute thing, they are showing some bald eagles swooping over a lake. And now I totally understand what you're talking about, because this bald eagle, 2 or 3 of them, are grabbing fish right out of the top of the lake. And one of my favorite scenes has always been one of the bald eagles. He only uses one claw. He's like, I didn't even need the other one. I just got the fish. It seems like such a large appendage based on the size of the bird.
Yes.
Is that typical for all raptors?
Yeah, although there are some that seem like they're a little bit of mismatches. So sometimes you have some raptors that are like larger bodied because they live where it's really cold. But so that heavier body helps them survive the colder weather.
Right.
But they actually eat very small prey. So for instance, there's a hawk called the rough-legged hawk.
Okay.
And they primarily live in the Arctic, and they're pretty heavy-bodied, and they have tiny little feet.
Whoa.
So they have to find a lot of food.
They eat lemmings.
Oh my gosh.
There are a lot of lemmings in the Arctic.
Well, I mean, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, since you have to eat whatever is available. But one of the cool things I think about raptors too is I just love watching them fly.
Yes.
Right? They kind of glide more, and then it's like they don't flap, they just kind of glide. And then every once in a while you'll see them kind of just lift their wings. And so do they have like special kind of shaped bodies to fly farther or anything?
So, I mean, that varies greatly by the raptor. So the ones you're talking about would be, that type of flight would be typical of like a red-tailed hawk with their very broad wings, or a bald eagle with their very broad wings.
Okay.
But, you know, we got to consider that raptors also include our smaller hawks like Cooper's hawks that cruise through people's backyards and eat birds at the feeders.
Yes.
And falcons that have very narrow pointed wings, because the peregrine falcon, of course, is the fastest animal on the planet, can stoop up to 240 miles per hour. And that does not work if you have big soaring wings. So while we picture raptors and we think about them sort of, you know, like you just said, soaring through the sky, glinting on them, you're just as likely to find a raptor zipping past you at 20 miles per hour and hitting a bird that was sitting there unsuspecting of their presence. So.
Oh my gosh, okay.
This reminds me of that documentary thing of like, we always root for the one the documentary is made on. So this episode is about the raptors. So we're cheering for the raptor in that engagement.
not the little bird.
Yeah, exactly. Not whatever unsuspecting.
Right. Now
it's the circle of life.
Yep. And keep in mind that our research has shown that they're capable of surviving taking the sicker and the weaker animals. In reality, you can feel bad for them, but a lot of the things that become prey were not in very good shape anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's good then. Yeah.
Okay. So we've started to learn about raptors. Can we jump to our main question? How do you rescue these creatures? How do you rescue raptors?
Yep. So first, let's briefly talk about why they need rescued. So
a good place to start.
Yep. Raptors, despite the fact that they have no natural predators, they fall victim to lots of things that we as humans have added to their environment. So it's very common for them to run into a window, for instance, while chasing a bird that they're trying to eat. It's really common for them to swoop down really low to try to grab something near a roadside and to be hit by a car. It's very common for them to scavenge a pile of a carcass, say, of a deer that's been shot and eat the lead that's inside of the deer carcass.
Oh, no.
And it's very common for them to eat rodents that have eaten rat poisoning.
Oh.
And then the bird picks up the rat poisoning.
Yeah.
So most of the reasons why they need our help is because we are guilty of putting them in those situations.
Okay. So what do you guys do to help rescue them?
So the goal is to intervene, to be the reason why they don't die from those things. The reason why they can make it back out and they can hunt again and they can build nests again and they can baby raptors again. And so we rely first and foremost on the public to see an injured animal and to either call us or bring it to us, because then we can do the work of actually trying to get them back to good health. And that starts with trying to diagnose what's wrong with them. Is the first step.
Right.
Giving them some critical care, which is not unlike what you would get if you took your pet to a veterinarian.
So like fluids and stuff like that? Oh, wow.
Blood samples, fluids, quick check of whether or not, they have enough blood cells or if they're having issues with blood clotting and if they have any types of open wounds that need to be treated, bandages. Sometimes they're just starving because they had some bad luck, in which case it's just getting them back on food. And our facility where we rehabilitate these birds looks like a veterinary clinic.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And looks very different from a veterinary clinic outside.
Oh, okay.
Because the outside are these gigantic cages where we do the physical therapy and rehabilitation part. Because these animals don't go home with their owners.
Right.
They have to build up their strength and they have to be able to learn how to fly again or how to use their legs again or see again, whatever it is that's wrong with them, indoors.
Wow.
Okay.
And to be able to do that, you need some pretty large facilities. So we have a cage that is 400 feet long.
400 feet?
400?
Wow.
Wow. That's a football field and a third.
Yeah. So I'm guessing, because my question was going to be then, how do you get the bird to do rehabilitation? So I'm assuming you're flying them inside?
Yeah, so we have different stages. So if they're in like really desperate need of our care, they hang out inside of smaller cages right inside the hospital.
Okay.
And if they're sort of getting a little bit stronger, they hang out in the outdoor cages just outside the hospital door. When they're when they've already had their wounds treated and maybe they're gaining their strength back, it's literally just about making sure they're fed every day and they get to practice being wild birds. And so that's when they go into the big flight cages and you walk in there every day and you watch them and you say, all right, that one's good. It landed on a perch fine. It went down and grabbed prey fine. We're ready to let this one go. And that's the goal.
Well, and that's the thing. So you're rehabilitating, meaning you're not turning them into pets. You're taking them back, releasing them back into the wild, right?
Correct. So that's the goal. There are cases where they're not releasable, but they can survive. And you will find that organizations like ours and others around the country have permits to be able to keep a small number of them that are non-releasable as what we call education ambassadors.
Oh, okay.
And so we go out and we do programs. We teach people about conservation and the importance of conserving these beautiful birds by using these birds that can live just fine inside of captivity, but would never make it in the wild. Sometimes they're blind in one eye or they have a wing that never healed properly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's some of the cases where that might be the situation where we keep them, but only for the purpose of education, and we don't collect them beyond our needs, or we try to find other people that will gladly take them and use them for the same purpose.
Right. That makes sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay.
So you had kind of touched on, I was already thinking of my next question. With your enormous indoor/outdoor space for these birds to rehabilitate, deciding when they are ready to go back in, that has to be, like, is that a gut feeling based on you and the other scientists, your team that you're working with? Or does each species of raptor sort of display a certain list of characteristics that, okay, check. Looks like Harvey can go back out now.
So this is where it's very important that the people who are rehabilitating the birds also know how the birds behave, where they live, what they do when they're not taken into it. So this is where it's not good enough to be the caretaker. You must also understand the bird biology outside of that system. So you can know.
Right.
I've seen 500 red-tailed hawks fly out in the wild, and this one isn't right. Or nope, this one is looking just like every other one I've ever observed in the wild.
Okay.
So we'll do one more exam. So rather than just saying it looks like they're flying well, we'll take them back in the hospital one more time and do a little bit of blood work and some checkups to make sure that all that stuff is on the up and up before we let them go.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
When you release them, like if people are like, if you have to go out and rescue them or whatever, or people bring them to you, do you put them back where they came from?
So that depends.
Okay.
Sometimes we get orphan babies that are brought to us because the tree fell over.
Oh, no.
And the parents are not around.
Okay.
In which case, we will just release them once they reach the stage where they can care for themselves. We release them in good habitat somewhere. We don't necessarily put them back where they came from.
Okay.
We try very hard to take them back where they came from.
Right.
At the very least, we make sure it's a match by the type of habitat they should live in and the season that they can make it. So, for instance, if we get a bird that normally migrates and it comes in during fall migration and it's healthy in the middle of the winter, we're not releasing it in the middle of winter.
Yes, that makes sense. That would be bad.
Exactly. So we will wait until that same species starts to return in the spring, and we'll give them a better start that way. So that's one of the ways we make those decisions. So again, there's a lot of understanding the basic biology of these animals and their native habitat to even get them to the point where they're rehabbed successfully.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's just the way you're talking about it, you can tell that you have worked with a lot of animals. You've been doing this a while and you've worked with a lot of animals. So double question here, sort of a two-parter. Do you have a favorite species of raptor to work with? And in that species, do you have a single story of a raptor that you've worked with, rescued, helped, etc.?
So I don't know if it's because it's sort of that opposites attract thing, but you can't tell this. This is terrible for an audio podcast, but I am a huge human. I am 6'8". I weigh 340 pounds. And I love American kestrels. They are the smallest of our tiny little falcons.
Okay.
But man, they have spunk. They have attitude. They take no prisoners. And when they're on programs, when we're doing education programs, for instance, they're really cooperative. But when we're working with them in rehab and when we work with them in the wild, when we're observing them, they just, I mean, they'll go try to take a mouse that weighs almost as much as they do and make it their meal. On the other hand, they'll turn around and go destroy 5 or 6 grasshoppers in one city.
Oh my gosh.
They're just little warriors. But I think that my favorite story about a raptor that came to the rehab center is one that we couldn't release, but I think it's important to tell this story.
Okay.
So one of the other reasons I didn't mention that birds come into rehab is because they're imprints, which means someone found them when they were a baby. And tried to raise them on their own. And that bird decided that that human is who they are. And they never develop natural behaviors as a wild bird.
That's sad, actually. Yeah.
And it is. And it happens a lot because people see these fuzzy little owls on the ground and they're like, I want to.
It's so cute.
Yes, I want this to be my pet. I want this to be my friend. And then they realize it's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
And oftentimes they try to pass it off as, oh, we just found this bird. And then we know better. I mean, 5 minutes of a bird coming into our facility, we know if it's an imprint or not because they should be screaming and clawing. And if they're like, oh, hello there. Nice to meet you too. You're like, nope.
No, you're the human named Travis. Nice to meet you.
Exactly. So we had this imprint great horned owl, and it was a female. We probably should have known from the start because she was very large, but it was given a male name, Tank. And this bird not only was an imprint, but it had this personality that for moments you'd be like, yes, it's just like every other raptor. It's just like, eat. Can I eat? Can I eat?
Right.
And then every once in a while it would start to just be silly. And our program director, Jock Nuzzo at the Raptor Center would like Tank and put him on like tabletops with like little scale model buildings.
Yeah.
It would look like he was like a giant owl that was like crashing through a city. And so he was the first bird that I ever actually had on the fist. And that's a term we use for when you wear the leather glove.
Right.
And the bird sits there with you. And as a wildlife biologist, the whole having a bird on the fist and displaying them in sort of a education bird thing was not something I did.
Right.
So the first time I ever had to get comfortable with a bird just sitting there calmly on my arm was Tank. So it's also a great lesson in why we don't keep baby animals.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's great. So what I want to talk about is safety. If people find birds and they want to bring them to you safely, or is it better if they call you guys, all that kind of stuff?
Most rehabilitation centers, and again, we are representative of we're one of the larger ones in Illinois, but of course this podcast is going out to
there's places everywhere.
Yes, there are places everywhere. Most of those places don't have the people power to be able to go rescue every bird themselves.
Okay.
So don't be surprised if you find a sick or injured bird and you call a rehabilitation center that they try to give you instructions on how to safely get it to them.
Okay.
And safely is key. I'm glad you brought that up because, again, we talked about their feet. And most people, I think, are going to make that mistake and try to avoid the face.
Right, the beak.
Yeah, and find a rude awakening when those claws are buried inside their arm or hand. So we always recommend that you use like a blanket or a towel, something that has a lot of layers so that when you go to sort of wrap the bird up, you curl around the bottom of the feet with layers and layers and layers.
Okay.
Cloth. And then place it into like a box that's appropriate size. I will tell you, one time we had a large female bald eagle come in. She was in a 96-gallon trash can.
Oh my
because that was the appropriate size.
Oh my gosh.
And then, so then get them to the local rehabilitation center and they will help. So we only go out on rescues if the bird's likely to be further injured because of its location or if it's causing a problem for the people. So if it's in the road intersection.
Oh, okay.
Or if a big crowd is gathering.
Yeah.
Or if the bird itself might, again, road intersection is a problem for both the bird and the people. We will try our best to get out there. If a bird is like stuck in a building, usually they just need to be let out and they don't know what they're doing. So we'll actually trap them and release them.
Right.
And,
gotcha.
Things like that. So we will go on calls, but it's rare. We generally ask the public to help us out with that part of it.
Oh.
Okay. That is great information. Thank you for sharing that.
But birds are heavier than you think. Well, maybe not to you, but to like.
No, I mean.
Sometimes they can be heavier than you think, I think.
I mean, like a big bald eagle, the biggest bald eagle weighs 13 pounds.
That's it?
Yes.
Maybe it's just because they feel so much. They look so strong. You know what I mean?
Right. But like, we catch, these Cooper socks, again, I mentioned earlier, that are great predators of small birds. The last male Cooper sock that we captured when we were doing research with the wild birds weighed 3/4 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, they don't weigh a lot, but they are strong. And
well, maybe that's what I'm feeling like. I don't know. I see we have at our Jacksonville Zoo, we have 2 bald eagles and one is a juvenile that I think was rescued. I don't know exactly what happened. It was something like he got caught up in one of the telephone wires or some kind of wire and he lost part of his wing, but they just look big.
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't want to get close to them. That would scare me.
It's hard to say in the same sentence. This animal has a 7-foot wingspan and weighs 13 pounds.
Oh my gosh!
Right.
Yeah,
because I have a 7-foot wingspan. I weigh 140 pounds. So I mean, it's deceptive because they're loaded with feathers. But of course, they don't have marrow in their bones. Their bones aren't actually hollow. They have dense fluid inside them.
Yeah.
And they're designed for floating on air. So weight is not good. Now, with that said, non-raptors like ostriches, those are heavy birds. They've got dense bones. They run on. Penguins are heavy birds because they don't go underwater. So there are heavy birds, just not the ones that fly.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So again, appreciate the safety info. That's super good. At the Illinois Raptor Center, how many birds are you helping at any given point, or maybe over the course of a year?
So over the course of the year, we admit between 350 and 400 patients.
Wow.
Now, that doesn't mean they're all raptors.
A bird a day.
Yes. I mean, I've been collaborating with them on research for 10 years, and we hit a bird a day average about midway through that point. It wasn't that much.
Oh, wow.
As we get more publicity for the work we're doing, the local community knows about us. And instead of just leaving a bird lie, they call us. So like, we're like every single time the newspaper runs a story, we get 15 more birds a year. It's like,
oh my gosh,
exactly what we were hoping for or what?
So who knows how many you'll get from the podcast?
Oh, right. Yeah, you guys. Thanks a lot. We're going to be inundated now because.
But think of all the birds that you saved. So are you able to save a large percentage of those too? And rehabilitate them and send them back out?
That is one of the hard truths of rehabilitation, is sometimes the rehab center's role is humanely euthanizing the animal and putting it in pain because it will not be able to return. And so realistically, I think our numbers are around 1 in 3, but you got to imagine, right, a bird that got hit by a car going 55 miles per hour, or a bird that has eaten lead that it can't breathe, or a bird that has eaten 25 rodents that were poisoned by rat poisoning. Are beyond our ability to get them back. So there are times where our care for them, our sort of end-of-life care is what we do as a service for them. But yeah, the success stories are great successes.
They are.
And we have them. So
that's very cool. And I imagine you must have some great success stories. Have you ever had a success story where you released a raptor back out in the wild and then went out to see if you could find it hanging out in a tree or flying around the local area?
So we are also bird banders. So we track and band wild birds and wild songbirds and raptors. And so to make sure that we are getting samples from non-rehab birds, we also have to band our rehab birds.
Right.
And so we do have some that we've seen in some common areas, but I can tell you a quick story of probably the most glorious example of that. And we are involved in it, but we didn't start with being involved in that.
Okay.
So the city of Chicago has been banding peregrine falcon chicks on the skyscrapers and the ledges of big buildings for several years now.
Wow.
Okay.
Almost every peregrine that nests in Chicago, the babies get banded and get tracked. And they get color bands so that even with binoculars, you can identify to the individual.
No kidding.
That's awesome.
So 7 years ago, we got a report of baby peregrine falcons on the ground at a major grain processing facility here in Decatur.
Okay.
Giant towers where they store grain and giant towers where they have pipes going everywhere. And they love cliff faces, and skyscrapers and giant towers are the next best thing in this renovated world that we've created. So we get eyes on the male. We find the nest. We take the babies. We get them rehabilitated. We get them back. And we get binoculars on the male. And he has color bands. And he's from the Chicago population.
Wow.
Down 200 miles to build a nest in Decatur at a major manufacturing facility.
Wow.
So we send the band information up to the Chicago people, and he has a name. His name is Jude. And when Jude was a baby, Jude fell out of his nest and landed on a spike on the ledge of one of those towers and impaled him.
Gosh.
Jude was taken to a rehabilitation center in Chicago, rehabilitated and released, only to later become the breeding male at a population of peregrine falcons in Decatur, Illinois, and to maintain a nest year in and year out.
Wow.
No kidding.
We recently had an explosion at that factory.
Oh, geez.
And we got a call that there was an adult peregrine falcon, and Jude survived the explosion. But he is currently in our care, and we are trying to rehabilitate him again and get him back out there.
Man, this
a story.
Yeah, like cats have 9 lives. This bird's got several of them, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's fantastic. But I mean, that shows what amazing work that you guys all do. You know, and like you said, there's raptor centers and bird rehabilitation centers all over the country. So anybody that's listening, you know, check out where they are. But also, I want you to tell people about the Illinois Raptor Center and how they can learn more about it. And I'm assuming you take donations if anyone is so inclined.
Sure. Well, I will tell you that maybe when they chose that name 25 years ago, they should have reconsidered. Because what happens is with Illinois in the name, a lot of people assume that we are a state-run or funded organization.
Oh.
And we are not. We are a typical nonprofit,
Gotcha.
like every other nonprofit, and we rely entirely on donations and grants to do what we do. So the choice of the Illinois in there. With that said, their original name was Wildlife CPR, and so Illinois Raptor Center.
Yeah, it's probably better.
We're almost there.
Yes. So we have a Facebook page, and it's the Illinois Raptor Center. We have about 21,000 followers, and we
Fantastic.
do our best way to give a little bit that goes a long way is we do a $2 Tuesday once a month, and if we get a couple thousand people to give $2, we feed our birds for a month.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And so
wow.
That is a way to give, but then also we have a website that's a little bit outdated, but the Facebook page is updated regularly. We do natural history features on just wild birds. We talk about the patient of the week. We talk about research. So it's like a curated Facebook page, not just like random stuff on there.
So you can see what your money is going to help and see all these birds. That's fantastic. I love that.
Nice. That's very cool.
So do you have one last question, Jeff?
I was just going to ask, is there any type of raptor that you have not worked directly with that you would like to work up close with?
So we have a tiny little owl that migrates through the United States each year called the northern saw-whet.
Okay.
And they are the most adorable thing. Everyone needs to go Google this after they hear this. Look up saw-whet, SAWWHET.
Okay.
They look like they're all head and all eyes and these tiny little bodies. And we've never had one in rehab since I've been there, but they do live around us and migrate through. And we've tried to do some banding of them in the wild and not yet caught them. Ooh. And I just want to catch one. I want to see. Someone look it up.
Oh my gosh.
And so I desperately, yes, I desperately want to work with saw-whets.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I love little tiny owls. They're so cool. But I've just noticed more hawks and birds and whatever. I think as you kind of get older and in our walk, like my husband and I walk out the front, there's every once in a while we'll hear a red-headed woodpecker and you're like trying to see it and they're not easy to see, right? You can hear them, but it's really hard to see. And one day I got him. So I'm like standing there with my camera, like, trying to get the picture of this bird.
Right.
Birds, they're just incredible. But oh my gosh, we could talk about birds forever. So we are at that point in our show where we ask our guests to give our listeners a challenge. I'm curious what your challenge will be, Travis.
So your notes on observing birds during the day is great. I mean, you know what? We can all see them. We can see them soaring. But I think that the fascination with owls is rightly placed. They are active mostly at night. They're hard to see.
Yes.
But you can tell if they're there if you use your ears instead of your eyes.
Ooh, okay.
And while, again, if you're getting this podcast in different regions, you may not have these exact birds, but there are some owls that are found across the United States. And I think that learning how to identify them by sound is a great challenge.
Yes.
My challenge is to learn to identify 3 owls by sound.
Okay.
Of course, how would you be able to do that if you didn't know what you're listening for?
Right.
Well, I'm going to do my best to give you their sounds.
Yay!
Yes.
So across the eastern and midwestern United States, the most common owl that you're going to hear is the barred owl.
Okay.
RRED. They like swampy areas. They like dense brush and dense woods. And when they get going, they sound like a pack of monkeys.
Ooh.
But each individual bird sounds like this. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
I love it.
Now, you might only hear pieces of that. Sometimes it just go, whoa.
Okay.
Are the most
right.
vocal.
Okay.
None of that sounds like who, which of course is disappointing, right?
Yes.
But
yes.
The great horned owl, which is found across the entire United States, is your typical hoot owl. They go like this. Ooh, 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 ooh.
I've heard those.
Yep. And
I think I heard them around me too.
Yep. Slightly higher pitched return call, which is the duet of the female. So
okay.
Slightly different tone if it's a male or a female. The barred owls all sound the same. Last one are the adorable little saw-whet owls. Hard to see, and their call goes like this. Toot, 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 toot.
No kidding.
Yep. A series of toots.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
So you've heard these, you just can't catch them yet, is what you're saying.
Right. So we've obviously got our hands on all those other ones, but we have yet to catch a saw-whet. And the way that you catch them is you use a speaker playing that call and draw them into the nets because they think there's a group of them nearby and it must be a good place. And then you go check your nets and hope you have little saw-whets in there.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
This
This
is great.
may be our first audio as the start of a challenge that we've ever had.
Yeah. No.
This is great.
This is great. Yeah. Well, and now, like, the great horned owl I've heard, but the other ones I haven't. So now I'm going to be listening as we,
To be honest, that's pretty typical. I mean, they are the most likely ones to be in an urban or suburban setting, right? Like, they're perfectly fine. They don't even build their own nests. They just use nests from old, like, previous birds. So, like,
okay,
in my backyard, we have 2 great horns nesting, and they're in an old Cooper sock nest.
Oh, okay.
They're like squatters.
Yes,
yeah.
And they're big enough to kick anybody out that tries to challenge them otherwise.
Okay, so they can.
Gosh.
This has been so much fun. My goodness.
It's been great. We have learned so much about raptors, and now everyone knows how to safely rescue them. So thank you so much for being on Solve It for Kids, Travis.
Thank you, Travis.
More birds in that category than I think a lot of us remember. And who doesn't love owls? No pun intended with the whoo. But speaking of fun sounds, Travis even gave us his challenge with sound effects involved. Identify 3 different owls by their calls. How do you not love that? And who doesn't love listening for owls in their neighborhood? How about you, Jen?
Yes. So go back if you can take this out on your phone with you and listen to the owls as you're walking around. I might do that on our next
That's
walk
a good idea.
There is an owl in our neighborhood that we hear, and I'm not exactly sure what it is. But I think this is so fun. And again, I love that he gave us their sounds and made the sounds themselves. So if you do this, we would love to hear from you. Tell us what kind of owls live in your area. So you can tag us on our social media. We're at KidsSolve at Facebook, X, and Instagram. And don't forget to check out our website, solveitforkids.com, where we have lots of links about this episode and all of our other episodes, as well as books that kids can check out so that they can learn more about raptors. So we hope you go out and kind of notice the birds flying around your environment.
And I think we're going to notice everybody is going to be figuring out that you have to go out at specific times in your area to be able to spot these owls. That's going to be fun. Can't wait to see what you figure out is in your neighborhood. Until next time, you'll hear Jen and Jeff on Solve It for Kids.